fight fans, Seattle Mike Fights with Friends. Everybody, please hit that like button if you like everything boxing, MMA, combat sports related. Make sure you're subscribed and don't forget to double tap that notification bell so you're notified whenever I drop a new video or go live, like December 10th for UFC 282, Glover Teixeira versus Yuri Prochazka 2. Now, some of you may have started betting since betting became legal in your state recently. Maybe it's under Draftkings, like myself here in Washington State. Maybe you've heard about actual fighters or coaches betting. Maybe you heard about the UFC coming down with a memo recently that banned fighters and coaches from betting on fights. There are big reasons for that. According to a November 14th article written by ESPN's Mark Raimondi, betting had become extremely common in the backstage at UFC events before being recently banned. Last month, a memo came down from UFC Chief Business Officer Hunter Campbell announcing that fighters and members of their teams, including coaches, were no longer allowed to place bets on UFC fights. This memo came after the UFC got guidance from state regulators that noted in certain jurisdictions it was a crime for fighters and coaches to bet on fights in leagues they were affiliated with. An actual crime. Well, some of you just may be looking into this because you were watching the prelims today, Saturday, November 19th, where Miles John said in his post-fight interview that James Krause was not allowed in his corner. He was actually pulled from further communication with Miles John while they were at dinner the night before the event. So less than a month before this memo was sent out by the UFC, sportsbooks in multiple states reported suspicious betting on a match between James Krause coach Derek Minner and fighter Shaylin Nurdiambeki. The official reported their concerns to U.S. Integrity, a Las Vegas firm that investigates shady betting. Nurdiambeki's first round KO win after Minner appeared to suffer a knee injury. So much money came in on Nurdiambeki to win by first round knockout that the line moved from minus 220 to minus 420. Bets also came in on the over-under, which was 2.5 rounds. This caused some sports books to pull the fight after millions of dollars in bets came in just on Nurdiambeki to win in the first round by knockout alone. ESPN reports talking to dozens of people inside the UFC organization anonymously that said betting inside the sport was widespread. Derek Minner is not only coached by James Krause also hosts a popular betting podcast. We're going to come back to that because there's some really interesting things that Mr. Krause spoke about online. This is not the first time, though, that the UFC has been in hot water over fight betting. In 2015, a fighter named Tai Hyun Bang, a South Korean fighter, went to prison for taking bribes to throw a fight against Leo Kuntz. Bang didn't even go through with the plan as he won the bout and returned the money, but it still was jailed. So fast forward to yesterday, Friday, November 18th, when fighter Miles John said his coach was pulled from the dinner table and suspended by the UFC. According to a November 19th article written by Kevin Ioli of Yahoo Sports, he's also been suspended from cornering by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Then there is this tweet from Krause admitting he knew Minner had an injury going into the bout. Let's look at that. This has since been deleted, but somebody out there on the good old internet screenshotted it. James says he's good man. Heartbroken, obviously, because he's probably getting cut now. His knee was jacked going into the fight, but he's got to pay bills. It is what it is, I suppose. Well, a few issues with this, knowing that the knee was injured going in. First of all, um, going into that fight, in the beginning of that fight, Derek Minner didn't throw any punches. He started throwing leg kicks with the injured knee, which was very interesting. He ended up going down from one of these leg kicks. But another interesting thing is we could be possibly looking at some insurance fraud here, because a fighter going into a bout that sustains an injury in a bout, it's covered by the UFC's insurance. Now, it's kind of an unspoken thing that a lot of fighters go into fights with injuries, and then, after the fight, they say, hey, I got this injury, so it can get covered, because they can't afford the insurance. And I don't blame them. But no one really admits it like this online. I mean, maybe there's times, I guess, that it has been admitted, like the TJ Dillashaw shoulder, which surprisingly was kept under wraps very well. But I imagine some insurance companies are still going to be looking into this type of thing. Lastly, I have another screenshot. This is from James Krause's his betting service, that I've been told from undisclosed anonymous sources that he is charged up to $5,000 a month. And it's titled Account Partnership. He said, as of now, we are accepting account takeovers. So this is where somebody goes into your betting account. This is not legal in the United States, by the way. It's only offshore accounts. It's generally done concerning fraud. Someone goes in, they actually take over your account. You give them their username, their password, and you place the bets for them. The accounts you give us will receive our sharpest wagers and all of our bets, assuming the account has the number we are looking for a given bet, prior to the numbers streaming. We stand behind our work and guarantee a profit. Always a red flag in the financial world. Guaranteed profits. Any user who has given us one or more accounts and does not turn a profit at the end of the season, won't happen, will receive a full refund on losses. So this does not look good. Does not look good for James Krause at all. Never give your account to anyone, by the way. And always guard your account. Make sure and change your passwords if you're betting, or in your 401k accounts, your Robinhood accounts, if you're buying stock, crypto, whatever it is. Change every time they recommend you to, because these account takeovers are becoming more and more common. And I have to state, as of this video, James Krause and no one involved with the UFC has been charged with any crimes, nor am I accusing James Krause or anyone in the UFC of any wrongdoing. Dana White and the UFC is performing an internal investigation. They have hired an outside company to do this. Dana White says he believes that there was no wrongdoing with the Derek Minner fight. Both ESPN and the UFC were unavailable to comment, chose not to respond to comment to Fights with Friends. So I want to know, what do you guys think about this? Do you bet? Had you ever looked at James Krause's betting service? Were you watching his podcast? Admittedly, I kind of wish I was now, because it sounds like he was pretty dang successful. But I doubt that podcast is going to be running any longer. James Krause, I've had nothing but good things to say about him in the past. He is a great coach. He's been one of the best coaches in MMA for quite some time. Coaching there for Glory MMA. And like I said, as of this video, he is not being accused formally of any wrongdoing. This is an investigation. And as far as I know, it's limited to the internal investigation of the UFC and possibly the Nevada State Athletic Commission, who has temporarily suspended Krause from cornering during fights. Once again, articles that I have read and quoted in this were from SB Nation, Mark Ramundi of ESPN, and Kevin Ioli of Yahoo Sports. Links to those articles are down in the description. As always, I love you, I respect you, and I'll see your fine asses next time.